Today we're going to take a quick look at what the e-commerce reporting options are inside of the standard reports area of GA4. So if you've just set up your reports using default options, usually you'll find these in the monetization section. And there are two main reports we're going to look at for the moment. The first is transactions, which is of the two layers that you can report on e-commerce data. This is kind of the standard event one that goes along with other events. These are, for each purchase, you should be capturing a transaction ID, the identification number of this particular order. This is in the Google Merchandise Store. And the options you'll get here are, the important parts are how many products somebody bought in this transaction and how much money it made. The other part is this e-commerce purchases, which under normal circumstances, this metric tells you how many purchases this event had associated to it, or this group of sessions, whatever it might be. In the case of this transactions report, it should be one every time. Each transaction ID should correspond to one purchase. If you have more than that, there is some double counting happening. So a good check to make sure your e-commerce tracking is working correctly is sort by e-commerce purchases, and if you see anything higher than one, investigate that. This transaction report is mostly just useful for checking kind of quantities of product per purchase or average order value metrics, and doing a little bit of debugging. The second layer of reporting on e-commerce data happens in the e-commerce purchases section. So this is where we find product data. So whenever an e-commerce action happens, we are capturing not just an add to cart happened or a purchase happened, but also all of the relevant product information that happened about it. So in this report, you will find, by default, you'll have item name as your dimension, and you'll have how many times the item was seen, how many times it was added to cart, how many times it was purchased, and then the amount of revenue associated to that item across all those purchases. So we can see that this was, the product page of this was viewed 9,000 times, there were 2,500 add to carts, give or take, and then 430 purchases off the back of that. These correspond to the view item button, the the view underscore item event, the add underscore to underscore cart event, and then the purchase event, respectively. If you're not tracking any one of those, you will see zeros in these respective columns. The other part to keep in mind is that if you click this little drop down here, you have the ability to access any of the other parts of your product schema that you might be capturing. So by default, it plays item name, but we can click into item ID, and you'll have all these different ID numbers. Similarly, item category, to see that these are the shop versus home products. And what can be very useful as well is item variant, to see these are the different sizes or potentially colors what you've captured into it in here. Unfortunately, in these reports, you cannot add other so we cannot add the variant as a secondary dimension, so we can't start grouping them together. If you want to build more specific and detailed reports on your e-commerce item data, you'll have to build out an exploration and combine the dimensions in there. A thing to keep an eye out for is sometimes you will see there will be numbers present in this column, but then there'll be a 0 here or a 0 here. But when you sort, you will find something with a similar name as purchase items. It is vital that when you send these events, that you make sure that the naming convention of your product structure is consistent. If you are struggling with that, that means you probably need to get your e-commerce tracking reviewed at a more in-depth level. Hopefully this has been helpful and can help you start investigating your product data. Thank you very much. Have a great day.